Welcome to Hero Villains. What do you think of Sentry versus Despero, two of the most terrifying psychophysical entities ever to exist? Two beings who have single-handedly confronted and overwhelmed entire teams of the mightiest superheroes. Two embodiments of absolute power and madness. Entities possessing strength that far surpasses all physical limits. They are not just muscle-bound powerhouses. They also wield terrifying mental abilities that can bend reality, manipulate will, and obliterate enemies with a single thought. On one side stands Marvel's Golden Guardian of Good, possessing the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns, the man who tore Ares apart and went toe-to-toe with World War Hulk, yet also serves as the prison housing a dark phantom known as the Void, Robert Reynolds, the Sentry. On the other is DC's mental tyrant, the arch-enemy of the Justice League, a being with the legendary third eye capable of multiversal-level mind manipulation, the creature who once enslaved Martian Manhunter and overpowered Superman with sheer willpower, Despero. Sentry brings boundless physical power and a fragile, vulnerable mind. Despero brings near-absolute psionic might and a body evolved for combat. When the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns clashes with the psionic might of the third eye, when inner madness confronts will domination, who will be the last one standing?
Robert Reynolds is not a mutant, not a god, nor an alien. He is a cosmic mistake, a living paradox, a junkie who inadvertently became the most powerful entity on the planet. Sentry's power is in constant flux and is directly influenced by his mental state. When his mind is stable, Sentry's full potential is unleashed almost entirely. Conversely, psychological instability causes his combat ability to degrade significantly. Based on his demonstrated feats, many assessments suggest that Sentry's highest power threshold can reach the Skyfather level, even approaching the aspect level at moments when he exerts his full capabilities. Sentry has repeatedly clashed with gods and beings whose power far exceeds that of average superheroes. He has battled Hercules in numerous fierce engagements, with both consistently generating collisions of cataclysmic destructive force. Sentry was also the one who defeated and executed Ares, the god of war renowned for possessing top-tier strength and melee combat skills within the pantheon. This feat stands as clear testament to his overwhelming fighting prowess. Moreover, Sentry easily defeated Iron Man when Tony Stark was using the Extremis armor, demonstrating the immense gap in power between the two. One of Sentry's most remarkable achievements is fighting World Breaker Hulk to a standstill, even while himself in a state of mental instability. This proves that even when not at peak performance, he is still fully capable of confronting one of the strongest versions of Hulk ever to appear. In terms of raw power, Sentry is frequently ranked as an equal to Thor and is capable of overwhelming heralds of Galactus like Terrax in a short time. It is affirmed that Sentry possesses the power equivalent to 1,000,000 exploding suns, a description meant to emphasize the nearly limitless, colossal energy source residing within him. This staggering power source is precisely what makes Sentry one of the mightiest and most dangerous characters. A single stellar explosion alone can generate enormous energy levels sufficient to threaten multiple star systems. Hence, this comparison is used to underscore the almost immeasurable scale of Sentry's power. During the period influenced by the Death Seed, Sentry exhibited power on a completely different level. He overwhelmed Thor in a direct confrontation and even stopped Mjolnir barehanded. Despite enduring a relentless barrage of the Thunder God's full force strikes, Sentry held his ground without being subdued. This serves as clear proof of the character's top-tier durability and endurance. He also easily swatted away Captain Marvel and Golden Thor, a weaker version of Thor, before proceeding to fight Avenger Thor to a standstill in a brutal showdown. Another prominent accomplishment of Sentry is his overwhelming defeat of Beta Ray Bill, a warrior who had himself once beaten Thor in their first encounter after seizing Mjolnir. When Thor lost his hammer, he was forced to revert to his Donald Blake form, which demonstrated just how formidable Beta Ray Bill truly was. Therefore, the fact that Sentry easily overcame this opponent further solidifies his standing among the most powerful characters. One of the most debated feats is Sentry tearing apart the negative zone with his bare hands. The negative zone is described as existing beyond countless higher dimensions and outside the scope of the ordinary multiverse. Heimdall once referred to it as an endless subspace, implying that the negative zone and subspace, also known as the crossroads of infinity, are directly linked. The negative zone has repeatedly been the target of entities possessing terrifying power, yet Sentry's ability to directly affect the very fabric of this region is still regarded as an immensely impressive feat. Sentry has also clashed with Galactus, and the battle ended in a stalemate, with neither side achieving absolute victory. It was that very confrontation that made Sentry remember Galactus as a worthy opponent. Furthermore, he tore apart the Void, the dark entity intrinsically linked to the nature of his own power. This entity had once easily overwhelmed both Doctor Strange and Loki when both possessed magic at the highest levels. Not stopping there, the Void also shattered every bone in Hulk's body through sheer overwhelming force. These successive feats against gods, cosmic entities, and top-tier warriors have affirmed that Sentry is one of the most comprehensively powerful characters, possessing destructive offensive capability as well as durability, speed, and combat prowess. Sentry survived an attack of maximum destructive force while simultaneously shattering a cosmic cube. This is an artifact containing an enormous energy source, described as capable of affecting countless levels of existence and once used to confront numerous celestial entities. Sentry's energy manipulation abilities were further demonstrated when he destroyed an entire planet with just a thought. Within the context of the Marvel Universe, where planets are often protected by multiple layers of energy, physical laws, and metaphysical factors, this is considered an immensely valuable feat. Some of the wondrous atoms in Marvel are cosmic in nature, each one potentially containing countless structures of existence within. Sentry has also been assessed as possessing power equivalent to Zom, the mighty magical entity that once absorbed the full power of Earth's mutants. When his mental state is stable, he is fully capable of holding Savage Hulk at bay in a direct confrontation without showing any disadvantage. This demonstrates that Sentry's physical strength, damage tolerance, and energy reserves all reach an utterly terrifying level. According to Stan Lee, Doctor Strange remained calm when facing entities such as Dormammu, Nightmare, and even Eternity. However, when Sentry returned with the full power of the Void, Doctor Strange displayed clear wariness and concern, a detail meant to emphasize the level of danger the Void represents, rather than serving as a direct comparison of power levels. From this, some have inferred that Sentry at his strongest could surpass Universal Eternity, Dormammu, and Nightmare. However, this still does not constitute absolute proof of his power ranking. Therefore, while this is a very noteworthy detail that contributes to affirming Sentry's status, it should not be considered the sole basis for concluding that he surpasses all the aforementioned cosmic entities. What remains more important is the synthesis of all his feats, in-story statements, and the context of each event in order to gain an objective perspective on Sentry's true power.
I really hope you will subscribe to the channel. That would help us out a lot, and you are the absolute best. Thank you so much.
Now let's talk about Despero. Despero was born with a unique ability, a third eye on his forehead, the symbol of the unparalleled psionic power of the Kalanorian race. But unlike his fellow kin, Despero's ambition did not stop at ruling his own planet. He craved absolute power over the entire universe. He overthrew the government of Kalanor, executed those who opposed him, and turned the entire planet into a military dictatorship under his rule. With the terrifying psionic power of his third eye, Despero can manipulate the minds of millions of beings at once, create illusions so perfect that they are indistinguishable from reality, and unleash psionic attacks capable of crushing the consciousness of the mightiest entities. Despero is one of the most dangerous and ruthless enemies the Justice League has ever faced. Hailing from an alien world, he harbors a deep-seated hatred for the Justice League after his absolute domination was shattered and the order he had built completely collapsed. For Despero, this was not merely a defeat, but an unforgivable humiliation. His sole objective is revenge and restoring his power at any cost. Throughout his many appearances, Despero has consistently demonstrated overwhelming power against members of the Justice League. He easily defeats a string of superheroes, treating these confrontations as little more than one-sided battles. Characters with unique abilities such as Plastic Man, Red Tornado, and many of their teammates were quickly subdued by his superior physical strength and fearsome psionic power. The combination of raw muscle, intellect, and mental power makes Despero an exceptionally well-rounded combatant. One of Despero's defining traits is his ability to learn from every defeat. He rarely makes the same mistake twice and constantly adapts to the tactics previously used against him. In the early post-crisis period, Despero was once stopped by Zatanna using magic after he had easily defeated both the Justice Society of America and the Justice League. However, in subsequent encounters, he quickly adjusted his strategy and regained the upper hand after only the first few exchanges. Even while being restrained by multiple heroes working in tandem, Despero was still fully capable of using his psionic powers to control Martian Manhunter like a puppet. In that battle, the primary reason Superman and Flash were not immediately defeated by Despero was that he was constantly forced to fend off relentless attacks from numerous Justice League members. This prevented Despero from focusing his full power on any single target. Despite this, he continued to dominate the battlefield and maintain the advantage over most of the heroes. The situation only shifted when Zatanna appeared and used magic to intervene. It should be noted that this was not a case of Superman resisting Despero's teleportation ability on his own. In reality, Despero's attack was interrupted mid-course and the effects of his power were neutralized by Zatanna's magic. Lobo has also been defeated by Despero, demonstrating just how dangerous this character is when pitted against warriors renowned for their physical might. However, in certain later storylines, Despero was thwarted not because he was overwhelmed in battle, but because Elron used body-swapping technology to transfer Despero's consciousness into another body. Even so, Despero ultimately regained control and continued to prove himself one of the most fearsome adversaries. In the New 52 era, Despero suffered another defeat, this time at the hands of Martian Manhunter. On that occasion, Martian Manhunter declared that he would no longer suppress his emotions and power as before, and thus fought with his full capabilities unleashed. However, the story does not end there. After this event, Despero returned to confront the New 52 version of Martian Manhunter in yet another encounter. Looking back at the post-crisis era, Despero's track record against Martian Manhunter is far more convincing. In one large-scale battle, Martian Manhunter joined forces with Aquaman and Batman to take him on. On top of Martian Manhunter's psionic power, Despero also had to contend with continuous coordinated strikes from Aquaman and tactical support from Batman. Despite all of this, the group still could not overwhelm him. Aquaman was forced to resort to a clever tactic, pulling Despero out of an underwater environment where he could leverage his greatest advantage. What makes Despero truly terrifying is not just his physical strength or psionic abilities, but his relentlessly oppressive fighting style. He often makes his opponents acutely aware of the power gap between them before delivering the finishing blow. His absolute confidence and command of the battlefield make Despero a uniquely dangerous threat to any hero lineup. On the whole, Despero is fully capable of competing with powerful figures such as Atrocitus, Sinestro under conditions without special trickery, and even Cyborg Superman. However, this does not mean he reaches the level of the Spectre. There is an instance where Despero freed the Spectre's mind from a parasite's control. This feat does not prove that Despero is stronger than the Spectre, as the target of his influence was a host under domination, not the full might of the divine entity Aztar. The Spectre was a victim of manipulation at the time, so this event cannot be taken as a direct measure for ranking power. A similar case occurred when Martian Manhunter influenced Hal Jordan during the period Hal served as the Spectre. The psionic ability in that instance affected Hal Jordan's mind, not the fundamental power of Aztar. Despero was among the others who sought to dominate Earth, and he was deceived by Luthor into believing that Luthor was the only one who knew how to kill Superman. In reality, Luthor served as proof that Despero had reached the pinnacle of humanity, which is why Despero could not refute the claim even though he knew the truth. He could have easily destroyed Stargirl, but his objective was different. He was not aiming to be a typical kind of villain. It is certainly no easy task to face the nightmare that is the tyrant Despero, whose very face suggests that you cannot defeat him. He is known as an extraordinarily masterful conqueror. And now, let's get to the direct comparison and battle analysis. This is one of the most unpredictable matchups, a battle between near limitless physical power and near absolute psionic power. Strength. If this were a purely hand-to-hand brawl, Sentry would win overwhelmingly. His power is unmatched. Even Despero, with all his physical might, cannot withstand for long the kind of punches that can tear gods apart. If Sentry can close the distance and unleash a relentless combination, Despero will be crushed. However, Despero is no fool. He will never allow the fight to remain solely on a physical plane. From the very first moment, he will use his psionic power to maintain distance, create shields, and most importantly, assault Sentry's mind. Robert Reynolds' mind is a fortress, but it is a fortress that has been severely damaged. He suffers from schizophrenia, depression, and severe anxiety disorders. He is constantly at war with the monster inside him, the Void. To a master of mental manipulation like Despero, Sentry's mind is not a fortress. It is a house with the door wide open. Despero will not try to directly control Sentry right away. That could be too difficult and dangerous. Instead, he will do what he does best. He will whisper. He will use telepathy to infiltrate Robert's mind, stirring up his deepest fears and most traumatic memories. He will show Robert illusions of the Void rising, of the people he loves being harmed by his own hand. He will amplify the madness already present within Sentry's psyche 100-fold. The Void is Sentry's greatest weakness, but also his greatest strength. If Despero can manipulate Robert's mind into unleashing the Void, he might think he has succeeded in creating an engine of destruction under his control, but that is an extremely dangerous gamble. The Void is not an entity easily controlled. It is the embodiment of pure annihilation, and it could very well turn against Despero. However, an even more dangerous scenario for Sentry is that Despero does not unleash the Void, but instead manipulates Robert Reynolds himself, making him believe Despero is an ally, or worse, driving him to spiritual suicide. A Robert Reynolds who has been convinced that his own existence is meaningless and simply gives up will cause Sentry to lose his will to fight, and that, in itself, is defeat. The battle. The fight would begin with a spectacular exchange of power. Sentry would charge in with sledgehammer blows, forcing Despero to continuously retreat and defend with psionic shields. Despero would immediately realize he cannot win on a physical level. He would begin his psionic assault. Torrents of crimson energy from his third eye firing directly into Sentry's mind. Initially, Sentry would resist. He possesses latent psionic abilities and a powerful will, but Despero's attacks do not target his will, they target his already fragile mental stability. Despero would rummage through his mind, finding the fears, the memories of the Void, of times he lost control and hurt those he loved. He would project these illusions into Sentry's consciousness. Robert Reynolds would begin to waver. He would see the Void rising, see his own hands morphing into black claws. He would panic, and that very panic would weaken his psionic defenses. Seizing the opportunity, Despero would unleash his most powerful psionic strike, not to control, but to convince Robert that the only way to stop the Void is to surrender, to stop fighting, to let Despero help him. Robert Reynolds would collapse, not physically, but mentally. And once his mind has fallen, Sentry is no longer a threat. Despero would not kill him, because killing Sentry could unleash the Void. Instead, he would turn Robert Reynolds into a mindless shell, a puppet imprisoned within his own nightmare. This is a fight that Despero wins. This victory comes not from being physically stronger, but from being a master at exploiting an opponent's psychological weaknesses. And no one has a greater psychological weakness than Robert Reynolds. Sentry is one of the most powerful entities ever to exist. If his mind were stable, if he could wield his full power without fear, he could defeat Despero, perhaps even defeat entities far stronger. But the reality is that his mind is unstable. It is a chaotic battlefield, and Despero is a general born to conquer such battlefields. Despero would not need to defeat Sentry with brute force. He would defeat Robert Reynolds using his own fears. He would turn Sentry's greatest power, his connection to the Void, into a fatal weakness.
And that is our analysis of the battle between the Golden Guardian of Good and the Mental Tyrant. Let us know what you think by commenting down below. Do you stand with the power of a million exploding suns, or the power of the third eye? If you enjoy epic showdowns like this, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future cosmic battles. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next fight. That's today's video. Thank you so much.